As an architect, and I always teach about this, there are two concepts that for me are the most important. One is every time I have to think about it's why. Why am I deciding to go with this system? And when I choose this system or this solution or this architecture or this person or this resource or this cloud or any other resource or any other decision, there is always a second thing, which is the trade off. I am losing something. I am targeting a specific option. There was an alternative or more than one, and I'm losing something because in life you don't have one thing and the other thing that it's completely isolated from each other. There are intersections. And every time you decide by one path, you are losing something for the other path that you did want. But you consider that your option was better because the gains that you think you will have are better than the ones from the option that you rejected. And one way to measure this is using something called the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost, what does is to evaluate what are you losing, not what are you gaining. Because that, if you can measure what will gain, it will be a great life for everyone and everyone could decide everything. But this one will allow you to say, okay, I have two options. And if I take the first option, what am I losing from the other option? And you can always reverse and try to calculate on the other side. So you have a good feeling about what is the best option that you want. Of course, this is math. You can apply this to your personal life, professional life, things you can measure, other things you can't. Although there is a great book that it's called, I think, Measure Anything, which is a great book. I don't remember if it's Oxford or not. Maybe if you can put on comments. I have the book. I don't remember by heart now the name, but if you want, I can give to you. That says that you can measure anything. For instance, even love, people sometimes, it's not possible to measure. It is if you have someone with you that, for instance, let's say finds $1 million or euros and divorce from you or separates from you, that was the value of the love of that person. The book takes a kind of a very critical and very science approach, but sometimes there is this kind of fun things. But at the end of the day, some of them are true. Okay, but let's return to our opportunity cost. So the main idea of the opportunity cost is at the end of the day to measure what are you losing. Okay, so let's see the details. What is opportunity cost? Again, the value of the next best alternative, not the alternative that you choose, the other one that you rejected. Okay, applies to money, time, resource, and potential benefits. It depends how you measure things, of course, as I was saying previously. Represents the true cost of the decisions, and I think this is quite important, not only professional life but also on the personal life. Not just the explicit expense, it's the true cost, how much it costs to take a decision. And I can do some kind of a spoiler alert. If we have two options, sometimes I spend, let's say, 10 euros in one option and 20 euros on the other. But you have to invest in one of them, let's say 5 euros to take any of them. So sometimes people, okay, if I go there, I spend 10, the other one, I spend 20. But if you have to invest in one of the options, it's not only the money that you are spending right away, but also the other expense that came around. For instance, a car. When you buy a car, you can say something, I will spend this in the car. But there are other expenses there. You have the maintenance of the car, you have assurance, you have a lot of things, and even the depreciation of the car. You can put on the math to check if your investment is good or not. Okay, there are sometimes things that we don't think, we just think straight to the explicit value of the options, but there are other hidden expense that we don't think about, but they are there, and these opportunity costs help us to find out about all of them. So why is important, or the opportunity cost important? It helps to reveal the hidden trade-offs in every decision. As I was saying, it drives better prioritization, because if you can measure what you are losing, maybe you want to change the priority of your decisions. It prevents wasteful investments, and most important for me, it's the regret for ignoring alternatives. Sometimes we just have an opinion on something, but when we put the math working, you can say, okay, I have this opinion, but it seems that this option is better. So I won't regret my decision in the future because I have a math support on that. And it's critical in both personal life and business strategy. Of course, it's decisions. It doesn't matter if it's professional or personal. In our life, we all have decisions in both areas. So what is the core question behind opportunity cost? Is what am I giving up by choosing this? That's the question. It's not what I'm earning after I decide this option. It's what I am giving up when I choose a specific option. So let's see the formula. It's quite simple. The opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative minus the value of the chosen option. So I want to study this. I choose this option here on the right, and but I use the one that I didn't choose as the one that will subtract from mine. So if the value is positive, remember it's the opportunity cost. It will be the cost of the decision. I don't want a positive cost. It means that I'm losing something if you think for a while about this matter. Remember that the formula, it's not about gaining, it's about losing. It's opportunity cost. So the value can be monetary, time, satisfaction, strategic advantage. Quantifying value requires assumptions and careful analysis. Sometimes it's difficult to put all the calculation here because you need to use some statistical, it depends of the problem, of course. So let's start with a simple example. Imagine you have two choices, but you can only pick one. That's the main idea here. Attend a conference. You imagine that you are developing a project. You say, I have to attend this conference, so I want to learn things, or this conference only happens twice a year, and I won't take the decision. But I have to spend 2,000 to attend this conference with the trips and things like that. And it takes 3 days. Okay. But I have another alternative. I'm working on a project in a freelance project that I already agreed with someone, and I can earn in 14 days $10,000. Should I attend the conference or not? Let's see. So why is important cost important here? So if you go to the conference, you can't work for your project during 3 days because it will attend. So you have to stop your work. This means you lose some money the project will have earned. Because if you return here, you can earn 10,000 after 14 days. But these are the days that you need to develop the project. If you go 3 days to this conference, you are losing part of this. Okay, that's the cost here because you're not working on the project. That's the main idea. So you are losing 3 days somehow. Maybe you can say I'm delaying, but for these 14 days, if you are checking for the next 14 days, what is the opportunity cost? That's the real math that we are doing. So how to calculate what you lose? The project makes 10,000 in 14 days. So each day it gives you $714. That's if you split for each day the value of 10,000, and you should do that because this is the earnings that you expect for each day that you are working. But you will miss 3 days working on the project. So this is the money that will not gain if you go to the conference. So it's like if you are losing this money. It's not that you have to give the money, but it's a cost. You are not earning this. It's the cost of that decision if you want to go to the conference. And what about the conference? You have to pay 2,000 to attend the conference. So if you think for a while before going to the next slide, you start to understand that apart from you you have to pay 2,000 to go to the conference, you also won't gain this $2,142. That's the thing that you should think. So the total opportunity cost, the money paid for the conference is 2,000. The lost profit from not working, it's this one. So the opportunity cost, it's 4,142. It's not that this money will go, you will spend it or you will not earn it. It's a value that represents how much it costs for you to go to the conference, because you have to pay the conference and you are not gaining this money. So this is, remember, this is an opportunity cost. It's not a balance sheet. It's an opportunity that you have that you could earn 2,142, but you are preferring to spend 2,000 and not earning this money. So your cost is 4,142. And this is the real number of your decision. Intuitively, people think, okay, I go to the conference, so I will lose or invest, depends on the way you see it, 2,000. But it's not the right value. The right value, it is this one. And this is very important for you to understand. So this is just a chart showing. So it's you can attend the conference, 2,000 for 3 days. You have a potential profit here, 10,000 for 14 days. This is what you will lose on profit. Not, you don't have to spend this money, but it's an opportunity that you are losing. That's why it's called opportunity cost, which is this money. So the total opportunity cost will be this one. and since it's positive, it means that you are losing something, or not gaining. Let's put opportunity cost, if you want to understand in a simple way. It's what you are not gaining when it's positive. Okay, in simple words, opportunity cost is everything you give up, the money you spend and the money you don't earn when you choose one thing over another. And this is what opportunity cost is. I will not now present more examples if you want to follow, but if you understand this, you can already apply in your life when you have two decisions. The trick will be how to apply in different scenarios. Sometimes you need some statistics, sometimes you need some formulas, depending if it's investments and things like that. But the main idea, it is this one. Okay, that's the main idea of my video. Now the next slides that I'm presenting just use cases, but this is the main idea. So let's see another use case. It's called career choice. So you want to choose between, okay, should I start to work, okay, in job 1 or job 2? And this happens a lot. People sometimes they have multiple choice and don't know how to choose because they have different approach to the math. So the job 1 gives you 7,000 a year, 70,000 a year. The job 2 starts with 50, but there is a 30% chance after 3 years for you to start 190. And this sometimes is quite difficult to measure this, because they are not saying that you will earn it. They will give a 30% chance. And let's think that this 30% chance it's real. Maybe it depends on the market or the people or projects that they are waiting to gain on their company. There are a lot of things, but that's a value. So the goal is to calculate the opportunity cost of choosing job 2 over job 1. We have to choose one of them because of the formula, right? So I'd say, should I go to the job 2? Okay, let's see what happens in 5 years. Okay, because you don't, if you go 2 years, that will not be a problem because it will be quite easy. In this one, you receive 70, this is 50, but you have for the next 3 years, this 90 here highlighting your brain, right? So let's see, step 1. So you have total salary for the job 1. It's just multiply by 5 this number, and you have $350 or euros, depending on your currency, of course. Now you go to the job 2 and you evaluate and say, okay, for the first 2 years, it's 100 because it's 50 here. But for the next 3, we have to use a kind of a simple formula using statistics. So we have a 30% chance of this 19. So we have to take this 3 and multiply by this 900. So there is this possibility. The other possibility is 70% chance of this 50. So this is the 150. We have these two scenarios, but now you have to, let's say, balance these values using a statistic approach, which is the expected value calculation, where it's quite simple to understand. There is a 30% chance of this value, so you multiply by this. It's a kind of probability or betting, if you want. And we have a 70 chance for this one. And the value, the real value from the statistical point of view, it's $186. That's the real value when you ponder for 30% and 70%, these two values. Okay, so the total expected salary for job 2, it's 286. And for this, I think it should be easy for you to decide which one do you want, because there is a big difference. It's 64. If you go to the job 2, you will lose or you will not gain this 64. You will not lose it, just the opportunity cost will be 64, meaning that if it's positive, it's not good for you. You should go to the job 1. From the statistical point of view, it will be better. But remember that you are measuring here the job 2 as your proposal, because you start to wonder about the 90 on the years 3, 4, and 5, but it's not a good choice. So in summary, let's say on 5 years, this is the value for job 2, this is value for job 1. Of course, you want to go for the job 1. Of course, yes, you have some opportunity for job 2 with this value, because it will start, if you think more than 5 years and you really have strong feeling about the 90, maybe you want to target this one. But at least if you create a time box, which is a kind of a decision framework that I already discussed in another video, and you say, okay, but I want to decide the 5 years, because every 5 years I change my job. You should go with job 1. It's clear, and you have a math to prove this to you. Okay. Let's see another use case, which is called time management, studying versus working. Sometimes people, should I go to the university or college or study or take some course for a while, or should I start work now? Which one is better? Okay, so there are two life paths here compared. One, you want to pursue education for 3 years, followed by 4 years of work. Let's put the time box of 7 years. Yeah, I think it's quite, maybe you can put 10 years if you want to just adapt the calculation here. But let's put 7 and enter the workforce immediately for 7 years. So you say, okay, I just start work, I don't do education. So let's say the study is 3 years, the cost of study, because there are costs to study, 10,000, salary after study, let's say you start with 50 for the, depending on the job. But if you start working now, you start to earn 30, and you have an evaluation period of 7 years. If you think for a while, it will be the same rationale that we did for the other use cases, but this one, it's about studying versus working. So let's say path A, studying for 3 years. Again, it's the same calculation. We will earn, okay, in this case, not earning, this is studying. I was just advancing in my mind. We'll spend 30,000 here for the first 3 years studies. That will be the cost of our study. Let's say that this 10,000 already includes room, the allocations and things like that, not only the school. Okay, to simplify, of course, there are other costs. Of course, you should append all of them here. And then you'll start working after graduation for the years 4 to 7, and you will be receiving 50. So after the 4 years, you'll receive $200,000. So on the path A, when you take all these values, you say, okay, I have minus 30 here, I will receive this. So my net result after 7 years, I expect to receive 170. Of course, there are depreciation, there are inflation that you can put here, but just use simple things as a first approach. Then if you want to go more professional, depending on your job, you can go after you made the, let's say, first layer of calculation. Now, the other option is just to work immediately. So I don't want to study. So I will start with a salary of 30,000 here. For 7 years, I'll receive 210, which is better than, if you look into this, than this one, if you go to start working. But this is a time box of 7. So if when you compare both approach, you will say, okay, work is better than study and then work at first approach. Okay, and you can prove this by putting here the opportunity cost. So you will lose 40 if you go to study because you have an investment. This is the study part. The option that you are taking, it's always the second one here, and you don't want this value to be positive. Of course, you can inverse, and you will see here minus, which will be a good thing. But in that case, you were targeting to say maybe it's better for me to start work and not to start to study. It depends how you approach the formula. But remember, this is the cost, the value that you don't earn because of your option. And this one, it's 40. So, but if you have you want to check more in the future, okay, the study path yields 20,000 more annually because now you have the study. There is a kind of an implication of you to start to earn more and more. While if you start work, you will be dependent, or you have lucky and you find another job, or at some point you just need to wait for promotions in your company, and of course the salary will not rise exponential or not neither double. It will be just small increments. So you want to study, let's say, more years ahead, and let's say you are studying 2 years, and by the 9th year the cumulative gain from studying exceeds that of the immediate work. So if you put a table like this, you can see for our study after the 8th year, okay, the work paths, you still receive 30 or maybe 31 or 32 or maybe 35 or something like that. You can align with a more accurate forecast for these values, but the study path gives you more. Okay, and usually if you are, for instance, in IT, probably the salaries, they have this trend to rise as new technology appears, and then you can invest maybe in a conference as our previous example, and you can apply again the opportunity cost and see if it can rise or not. But in the long term, probably apart, even if the opportunity cost that it's not a good idea to go to the study first, maybe you want to think about after 7 years because it's your life now, or maybe you can decide to go to school later. But always take this approach of for 7 years, it's better for you to work. But after 7 years, because it's a, let's say it's a critical life decision, and maybe you want to push after you did the first analysis to 2 or 3 more years, and you start to see that suddenly because you took the course or took the university, you start to study, you will earn more money later. I think it's intuitive. So, conclusion, education entails a short term financial cost and delayed earnings. That's why people go to school, right? Immediate employment offers quicker financial gain but a lower long term income. This is quite important to know. Opportunity cost analysis depends on the time horizon considered, as we see. So, at 7 years, it's better to work. After the 8 year or 9 year, it is better to study. So when you do a first approach, and if it's critical, try to push the horizon ahead, unless there is no reason to do that. But if it's a critical life path decision, maybe you want to push the horizon, let's say, of the opportunity cost ahead. So over a 7 period, immediate work yields higher return. Over a long horizon, education may produce superior lifetime earnings. So this is important to understand. Let's say now you are in the company and you are a manager, architect, or you participate in the decisions about hiring versus outsourcing. And this happens all the time. So again, it's the same concept, the same approach. So you have a salary, let's say, if you hire someone, you want to pay this value, it's quite big. But you, of course, you have to spend money on boarding and some delay loss. But why? Because people sometimes they say, okay, we'll pay this month, that will be our expense. But there are other expenses, taxes, things that you have to buy, laptops, material, arrangements in the company, and the time that this person will need to reach the same level of knowledge of the other. So you will not be producing for a while, but we will be receiving as if he was producing. So you have to measure this. Usually the human resource, they have these values depending on the company. So you can always ask them about these values. And now on the other side, you have the outsourcing. And the outsourcing, of course, it's more expensive because it's a company putting a resource in another company. So it's a kind of, they work like kind of an agent. So they want also some earnings from the money that the resource is gaining. So the cost will be bigger, but there is no onboarding or delay loss because you expect someone that already knows about the subject, and you just accept the person and it starts to work. Maybe there will be a small adaptation for a while, but you expect that his level will fit the job description that you provided to the outsourcers companies. So let's say first year total cost, when you hire, that will be for the first year because you have the salary, but you have other expenses because it's the person starts to work on your company. And the outsourcing, it's just clears it is this value. So when you hire, you start with a bigger value than the outsourcing. It's quite strange, but that's what happens. So the first year cost comparison, this is the value for if you remember, for the hiring, and this is one for the outsourcing. So the opportunity cost is 10,000, meaning that probably it will go better with outsourcing. Okay, outsourcing is 10,000 cheaper in the first year. But now let's put the horizon 1 or 2 years ahead. So the hiring will keep with the same value every year. There will be no onboarding or delay. Now, on the contrary, because this person will start to produce more, at least this is what we expect, and bring more value to the company. And the salary probably it's the same, but is bringing more and more value because he starts to understand better the system. So I think it takes better decisions. And if it's a good resource, at some point maybe you want to give him more money because it will be bringing real value to our company. But the outsourcing, usually it's the same value here, and now the opportunity cost it's different because now you want to target the hiring, which will be better for the second year. You can see here the difference, it's 40,000. And at the same time, not saying bad about outsourcing because I was an outsourcer a lot of times, but usually the motivation for someone that works inside the company compared with someone that doesn't work in the company, probably it's not the same. Of course, in perfect conditions. I have worked with outsourced people, like, and I was an outsourcer for several years, and I really did my best, and that's why today I'm an architect with my curriculum. But yeah, we always have to consider all these factors with some probability to happen. So on step 4, total cost over 2 years. Now it's 210 for the hiring, but the outsourcing now it's 240. Now it's the inverse. Now it's we are spending more money with the outsourcing than the hiring. Of course, there are other. If you talk with people from management, they will say they prefer outsourcing because they can fire easily an outsourcing person, and hiring person it's more difficult because they have to pay some extra money on that. But let's remove that. But if you want, you can add this. You can say, okay, after 2 years, I have to pay something to the guy that is hiring, so I have to some values here. But the main idea is just to show you how to apply the concept of opportunity cost in these scenarios. But of course, you can always tweak this and add more values or remove values accordingly to the scenario or the real scenario that you are trying to evaluate. So 2 years cost advantage here. Cost advantage will be 30,000. So you will have advantages of hiring here over the outsourcing. So outsourcing is initial cheaper. As we saw, hiring is better for longer projects. Break even after year 2. And again, you gain other things if you have the luck to get a good resource. On hiring process, it will bring more value to your company. Now let's see an architecture use case: build custom or buy third party. It's the same concept as the person. It's hiring or outsourcing, but now do we want to buy a product or we want to build our own product? There are a lot of variables here. I will simplify a lot because there are things like time to market and things like that that I'm not putting here, and they are relevant. Of course, if you have to deploy something in 2 months and you need 5 months to develop, of course, it's not even an option. But imagine that you have the option and the time to make this trade-off. So build costs you, let's say, 50,000. Okay, you need 1,000 hours to build this. But if you go with a license, a product that already exists, you have to pay, let's say, 40,000 ahead just to buy the product. Then you need a maintenance or support for 5,000. It is usual on this kind of scenarios. And you need an integration of 10,000 revenue loss here for 2 months. So you need a company to go to your company, teach how to use it, and it takes 2 months and integrate with your products. Or you have to pay every year 5,000, and you have the starting value of 4,000 one time. Okay, it depends on the product, but usually it's quite common, this kind of values. So first one, the step 1 build cost, it's 50,000 as we saw. License cost, that's the other option. We want to measure the value. Let's say on the first year, it's 40,000 upfront plus 5 maintenance plus 10,000 for the customization and support and integration and so on. So it costs 55,000. So it's more expensive than this one on the first year. Now on the year 2, the license cost here is we just multiply by these 2. So we will spend 60 after 2 years. So the first year it's 55, then 60, and of course third year 65. Of course that will not happen. License, probably the values of the license will change, but just to be simple here to understand opportunity cost, let's say it's every year is 5,000. So when we create this table to compare, so on the first year, okay, the build will be here it's 50, okay, and on the year 2 it's still 50 because it was built by us. So there are no more expense on that. Of course, there are hidden costs here. We have a support team. We have some increments on the application, things like that. But let's say that when we increment somehow, we earn money. So we are only interested on the development part, not the maintenance feature of the application. So now on the license, we start with 55, but at second year it will be 60, third year 65. So it will always be a value that we have to pay every year, which is contrary to the option of building. So if you choose the license, the opportunity cost will be 10,000 over 2 years. Okay, this is what we will be, let's say, losing, because it will be cheaper for us to build it. If you choose to build, you have the opportunity cost, of course, the value, but you have potential benefits not quantified. This is one of the most important. Apart of being cheaper, it will be faster deliver, features, support. It will be everything on our side. Of course, there are some hidden things that we are not explaining. When we build a product, we have to make sure that the people that understands how it was developed remain on the company. Imagine that you develop a product and everyone is fired or quit, then it will be very difficult for another team to take that project and continue it. So there are a lot of things that we are not explaining here, but I just want to show you how can you compare or calculate the opportunity cost for when you go one path or the other path. So in summary, build is cheaper by 10,000 over 2 years, but license may offer no monetary benefits like faster integration, vendor support, stability, bug fixing. There are a lot of things that the license can provide to you, because when you have license over a product, every release of the product, you have access to it. You have upgrades, at least small upgrades. Sometimes major upgrades, they ask you for more money because they have different features, but you don't need people to support that because it's already there. It depends. Of course, there are more information to put it here, but I just want to show you the scenario where what should you take into consideration if you have to decide to build, of course, and to buy something that it's already built. But that it will be the subject for another video just dedicated to that kind of decisions, because there are a lot of math behind the resource support teams. It depends a lot of the business and things like that, as you can imagine. So in summary, opportunity cost is the value of what you give up, and I hope you understand this by now. The factor can mean time, money, and intangibles like morale, technical debt. There are other things sometimes that are involved that you don't want to put values there or numbers, but you can. Maybe for you, you can put value on your decisions. For me, study, it's really, really important. It's about culture. I want to use these studies for other personal opportunities, so I put some earnings that I think I will have in the future. You can do this kind of variations, but remember that on the first approach, just go very cynical. Let's say, okay, the values are these ones, and I will take the decision based on these ones. No expectations, no forecasts, just for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. What decision should I take? And sometimes it's better because it's simpler for you to decide. Quantify costs and revisit assumptions often. Of course, in architecture, weight costs or tech choice and refactoring. It is quite important in architectures. It's the hidden costs that I was talking about. Allocate people where they add most value. Consider lost market time, underlying releases or features. There are a lot of things that you can think to add to those calculations. But I will not go through all these items, because the most important lesson here, and I hope that I reach it for you, is just a way for you when you have two decisions. What are you losing when you choose one of them? And now you have a mathematical way that can help you to reach that. I didn't went into the deepness of the calculations and every variables, because they are, let's say, the department per se, where financial department in the company to do these kind of things. But as a first approach, I think it can help you a lot to take decisions and to show the details of your decision in terms of numbers. And for your personal life, I think it's a great tool to have around, at least for a lot. Even, do I have to take a trip, visit this country, or can I take this money and do another thing? And now you have a way to calculate, and you can evaluate what will you lose when you choose one of the options. So I hope you liked this video. I hope I brought to you some value to the way you think and the way you see software, architectures, and decisions of your life. And please subscribe my channel, share it with your friends, provide comments, ideas, and thank you for watching.